Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Good evening, Fade to Black. Today is Wednesday, August 9th, 2023. Let's do this, man. Yeah, that's my radio DJ thing. But actually, that's how I talk in real life. And I'm excited about tonight's show because L.A. Marzulli is with us, and I want you to help support the show and what we do here. It's easy to do, and the team, we have a big team that puts this together. We broadcast 4 nights a week. We do the news earlier in the day, so we've got that 2 shows, and then Wednesdays and Thursdays we do 3 shows, sometimes 4. And so help support what we do by getting a Fade to Black t-shirt. Everything is autographed, ships for free, ships the next day. It's simple to do. The links are below. Get yourself a Fade to Black t-shirt. All right. I don't even know where to start. Tonight is L.A. Marzulli, and he's back with us. He's one of my favorite guests and somebody that I have looked up to for a number of years, too long, actually. But tonight, we're going to talk about L.A., how he gets his research done. He travels around the world and does the research with a hands-on approach. And I've always enjoyed his style and chasing knowledge and trying to get us those answers. He's written many books. He's an author. He's a lecturer. And, of course, he is a filmmaker, and his film series is insanely great. There's more films that are in post that are getting, I think the number is 2. We'll talk to LA about that, that are getting ready to be released. He received an honorary doctorate for the series from his mentor, Dr. I.D.E. Thomas, who was the provost at Pacific International University. His book, On the Trail of the Nephilim, Definitive Proof of Biblical Giants, is a full-color, oversized book which uncovers startling evidence that there is a massive cover-up going on right now and trying to keep that knowledge from us. And it is his pursuit of knowledge that drives him. I would direct everybody to LA's websites. They are below if you need to reach out. And we've also got it over on our website and throughout social media. Let's get straight to it tonight. L.A. Marzulli. There he is right in front of us. L.A., how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, Jimmy. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Man, the honor and the privilege is all mine. And just welcome back. And it's great to see you and hear your voice. I'm going to, just let me say this for the audience. I'm going to do something a little bit different tonight. But yes, we're going to talk about UFOs, ET contact, disclosure, your latest research, and some stuff that is I don't want to give it away. We'll talk about that in a minute. You've got some new films coming out. You've got a lot of respect from the community, and people are chomping at the bit right now tonight on this broadcast, wondering what LA is going to bring to the table. But I am going to, I've got a video clip. Okay. Now I'm going to run this video clip. And people are going to see a side of L.A. Marzulli that they may not know was there. Permission granted? Can I run this thing?
Permission granted. Thank you, sir.
Okay, everybody check this out. That's amazing, man. That
Thank
is
you.
absolutely amazing. Amazing. And I've said this before, but it's going to get repeated. I don't know exactly when, but it was a while ago, a couple of decades or something. But I was introduced to you, and what grabbed me first, because somebody said, "Man, you got to check this guy out. You got to your name." Right, L.A. Marzulli, right? It's like the coolest. And I got into the research and started reading your stuff, and I said to myself, "This is my guy. This dude right here. This is my guy." But now it's official. You are really, you are really my guy. That's incredible. That's incredible. And so, have you been? We'll get to UFOs, everybody. Just give me a minute here. When did you start playing? How old?
I took accordion lessons at 7 years old. And then, I'm not going to bore you with the history, but basically, when I was 40, I realized there were gaps in my musical knowledge. So I went to a private teacher, David Hicken, and we sort of started at the beginning. And I took with him probably 4 years, once a week. I got up into, I was classically trained by him. I had been playing forever, but I was classically trained by David, with the whole deal. And I've been composing. I composed my first piece of music when I was 7 years old, Dance of the Leprechauns. I saw Darby O'Gill and the Little People and came home and wrote that on the accordion. So, I've written things for orchestras, all my films. I do all the music for all of our films. It's just something. So I'm like wearing a lot of hats, but I love what I do. And then since the fire in 2018, that's when I really got serious again about the piano. I practice every day, and I'm composing new. That's a brand new work. It's for our first and only granddaughter, Opal, and so that's why it's called Little O Has Happy Feet. And,
yes, right. Do you the ability to attempt to master an instrument? You never master it, right? But that's the goal, right? You attempt to get better and better at it. But it also allows you to exercise both sides of your brain, both hands,
exactly.
to think separately. Does that help in your research too, as well? And I know it's a weird connection, but your mind is open. Is that why you are so rigorous in your pursuit of knowledge?
I think what the piano does, and the compositions and playing and practicing it on a daily level, it clears my head completely, because in order to play that piece, I have to be fully engaged in it. I can't, if I think about anything else but what I'm doing, I forget where I am in the piece, because you can't do two things at once. So if I'm thinking about, I've got to edit this part of that's it. I'm out of the. So it's a discipline. It's a discipline. When I'm playing that piece, Little O Has Happy Feet, I have to be 100% committed and focused on. I was practicing tonight before the show, and I was playing a piece, and I stopped it, and I looked at my wife Peggy, and I said, I just got bounced out. I bounced myself out, because if you don't focus, you get bounced out. That's it. So it's a discipline of focusing your mental energy into one thing, but it also clears the air. I'm working on a film. We'll probably finish it up by Saturday. My business partner, Gil Zimmerman's coming down, and we're putting the final touches on this. It's the darkest film I've ever worked on. It's on cattle mutilations, the darkest film. And I've been working on it. We filmed it in March, and I'm figuring I'll have this done in 2 weeks. It's August. It's the most difficult film I've ever had to deal with, because it's so dark, so nefarious in so many ways. So the piano clears the air.
Right.
It lifts the darkness out, which is pretty cool.
I love that. I love that. And there, speaking to that, do you feel that the ancients, because when you go into the zone, like you're saying, right, and you go into the zone, your conscious mind, you're on another planet.
Yeah.
You go into the zone, you are no longer part of this atmosphere, which is what you were just saying. Do you feel that the ancients knew that they had that ability? They didn't have the distractions that we have today, and they recognized the other side of the mind and were able to tap into that much more freely.
Well, there's a couple of schools of thought here, and this is really a 3-hour conversation.
Sure.
Because what that will lead to is Eastern mysticism, where you go into them. And I was there. I was with a guru for 3 years. My third eye was open. I meditated, did the whole deal. Lived in the ashram, but it's a distraction in the sense that you can do that, and we can open ourselves up to all sorts of stuff, which is what happened to me. But it never deals with the core issues of who we are as human beings. It never deals with our individual depravity, if I can use that term, because all of us are depraved in some way. We do things, we think things, we act out things that if we were to sit down, we're ashamed of those things on some level. So on one hand, the discipline of let's say playing a keyboard, playing a guitar, playing a very intricate piece of music, that requires a lot of focus. When I used to conduct choirs and things like that with tracks. I conducted the Hallelujah chorus at one time, which was really a hoot. And you're sitting there with a score, and the focus has to be laser, and you just don't arrive at that in 5 minutes. One has to train themselves to focus their mental, just their mentality, what they're thinking, their entire focus, their entire being has to be absorbed in that one thing that they're doing. And it's that way in everything on the planet. A baseball player gets up to bat. He's not thinking about his girlfriend back at the hotel room or in the stands. He can't go there. And he's learned not to go there. He has to discipline himself to take the reward, as it were. Nope, not going there. He's focused on one thing only. Where's that ball coming in at, and how can I hit it? And it's taken him years to arrive at that point. It's like you can take it with anything. A downhill skier is not thinking about, gee, I'm going to get a nice, bowl of chicken and rice teriyaki when I'm done. No, he or she is going down that at 85 miles an hour or faster, and they are in the moment, and that's all they're doing. They're in the moment thinking, and that's how it is with piano or guitar piece or anything like that. One has to be in the moment, has to be absolutely in the moment. And a person doesn't arrive at that in 5 minutes. I've had to train myself. When I sit down at the keyboard and I'm practicing my pieces, I am like a laser. I have to be, because the moment I think anything else, I'm gone. I'm out of the piece. I'm out of the piece. I don't know where I am, and I stop playing. My fingers just go. It's just.
I bet you can type on a keyboard like a Jedi master after watching that. Don't tell me you can't type. I can only imagine.
I'm self-taught typing, but I type with all the fingers. But
yeah.
I'm not super fast, but I'm good. I'm okay.
Now, here's where we're going to take a little bit of a left turn, but the world is in a strange spot today, right? On so many fronts. And our thoughts. I just want to say this really quick. Our thoughts and prayers are with everybody over in Hawaii right now. They are really going through it, and LA and I were talking before the show. Here in Southern California, we have fire season, and we go through it. LA's house, he lost his house a couple of years ago, and 4 years ago.
5 years.
5 years ago in the Woolsey fire, which I watched happen and start next to my house. And I watched it sweep around the valley and into Malibu in like an hour. That fire, I think I read something. It was moving at like 70 miles an hour.
Yeah.
70 miles. It went the 70 miles from the San Fernando Valley to Malibu. That's a 70-mile drive, and it got there in an hour. And it was crazy. So our thoughts are with everybody over in Hawaii, and so now, but the world is in a strange place, and I have to ask you this. I have seen you speak to congregations of thousands, right? Huge congregations. I've read your books. I've interviewed you many times. I've watched your movies. And is there any conflict from a congregation that is in a church? They're there for their own, reasons. But then to have this other side of not only you, but of the world, which is ET in contact. And we are all today, it doesn't matter what background we are all facing this reality right now.
Yes.
of ET. Is there an issue with that, with the circles that you run in?
Well, there's really two schools of thought, and really only two. One, that these are extraterrestrials from some other planet, and then once we establish that, then are they our progenitors? Did they seed us here? Did they genetically manipulate early man? Did they start the world civilizations and religions? And now at this critical juncture in human history, are they back to usher mankind into a golden age? That's the extraterrestrial hypothesis. That's the extraterrestrial paradigm. That's what's promulgated on Ancient Aliens every Friday night. That's what a lot of so-called New Agers hold to. What we're seeing with the hearings in Congress, that's the paradigm that they're holding to. They don't bring the religious card or the supernatural card into it at all. It's a controlled, managed agenda. It's kabuki theater. It's a dog and pony show, what we're seeing in Congress. But that's all one paradigm. There's another paradigm, which is the one I adhere to and embrace. These are supernatural entities. They are extra-dimensional or interdimensional, as I prefer to call them. They have a nefarious agenda. There is a breeding program that's going on, and it all goes back to ancient prophetic texts. There's a prophecy in ancient prophetic texts, ancient prophetic literature, that tells us this. First of all, the entity that's appearing to this guy, Daniel, says, hey, Dan, seal up the words to this prophecy. Seal up the words in this little book that I've given you. Seal them up until the time of the end. Very specific. Seal up the words of the book until the time of the end. And then this entity gives Daniel a supernatural clue. He says, this is what it's going to look like. The time of the end will look like this. Men will run to and fro over the face of the earth. Knowledge will increase. If you were to take 2,500 years ago when that passage was written to the present day, it's flatlined until Gutenberg's printing press, and then we get a blip. And then in the Industrial Revolution, it starts to go up, and now in modernity, it's exponential. We are in, as I speak, Jimmy, you know this, men and women right now are running to and fro over the face of the earth via the airplane. That's what's going on. Mm-hmm. Knowledge increases exponentially. And this is what he says. The entity says, their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. And the word cleave is the word that we get for marriage. So there's no marriage. So what does that sound like? Their seed, first of all, who are they? Mm-hmm. And the they is not humans, it's something else. Their seed will cleave, their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. When you take that, which was written about 2,500 years ago, you take that and you plug it into the modern day abduction phenomena, everything sinks like dovetails. Like it just goes bam, because that's exactly what's going on. The seed is mingling, but there's no marriage. There's no cleaving. They will not cleave. There's no marriage contract. The women are taken, ovum is taken, they're impregnated, the men with the sperm, there's no marriage. There's no honor in this thing at all. They take what they want, and the hybrids are born. And that, in my opinion, is where we are. So this whole extraterrestrial thing has two sides. One, which I said earlier, the extraterrestrial hypothesis, which is what the Vatican, ancient aliens, and others are promulgating, which is what we see in Congress, or the paradigm which I hold to. These are interdimensional entities with a very, very nefarious agenda. Oh my
Do you
God.
think?
Unbelievable.
Do you think that we are all talking about the same thing, but just using different words?
Well, we
There's
are.
Right,
We are.
right.
We're definitely, we all agree on this. Something is coming in here, but
Right.
what's the paradigm? What's the worldview? Like when I'm speaking at, let's say, a New Age conference or a conference of people that adhere to the ancient alien paradigm, the first question I'll ask them, I go, "Hi, I'm Elliot Marzulli. Let me ask you guys something. How many people in the audience think it's okay to abduct a 5-year-old boy and implant him? Anybody? Please raise your hand." Never a hand goes up. Not one hand goes up. And I know that's what's going to happen. That's why I asked the question. And I look at the audience and I go, "Why are you here? Why? What do you already know the answer. You just told me what this phenomenon is. Because if it's not good to abduct a 5-year-old boy, then we have a nefarious agenda. That's what's going on. We're publishing a book in our little publishing company. It's called Stolen Seed. It's called Stolen Seed. And it's by a woman who we interviewed in our film. And I'm really proud to be publishing this book. It'll be out probably in the fall because it just got finished. We're going to hand it off to the printer probably next week. And so we'll probably have it in September sometime. And, we're going to promote this thing like crazy because Karen was an abductee from the time she was 6 years old. She, like Dolly in Preston Dennett's book, she learned to fly the plane. She learned to fly. They taught her how to fly the saucer. They communicated with her telepath. It's exactly like Dolly, except she got out. She realized that these are, she was raped numerous times. She was impregnated 3 different times. So she's writing about all this. It's a fascinating book. I wrote the foreword, and like I said, we're publishing it. What's amazing about this, and once again, how is it okay to abduct a 6-year-old girl and do it over and over again and do these sadistic sexual experimentations on her? Never a hand goes up. There's a breeding program that's going on. She was impregnated 3 times. They were hybrid entities. She saw them 20 years later when they appeared in the room. So there's only, in my opinion, this is a nefarious agenda. This isn't, the benevolent space brothers from Epsilon Eridani or Zeta Reticuli. Al is a guy that was abducted, just like Karen. Started when he was like 6 or 7, all through his teenage years into adulthood. He actually fled Eastern Canada for Western Canada to try to escape it. Of course, you can't escape it. They know where you are. They know. And he was abducted numerous times. And, on the record, and it's really bold for him to say it, he goes, I was violated. I was raped. They took my seed. I peed my pants. I wet myself. I mean, this isn't a good thing. And when you talk to the abductees like I have, that's number 4 in our film series. Emil's another guy. And Emil's been abducted, just like Al, just like Karen, from a very young age, 6, 7 years old. And he looks at the camera and he goes, "Yeah, my parents would find me out on the lawn at 7 and 6 or 7 in the morning. And so they put locks on all the doors and windows. They would lock me in my room." And he looks at the camera and he goes, "And the next morning, I'd be out on the lawn." And he goes, "Explain that to me." Because he knows it's real. He knows what's going on. And his parents are clueless. There's no umbrella for this. This is why we made the film. This is why we're publishing Karen's book. Because there are people who are listening to us right now who have been taken and can't tell it. They're afraid to tell anybody. They're where do you go with this? "Hi, I've been abducted by aliens." Ooh, okay.
You don't. It's the most difficult thing. Yeah. Absolutely. And even myself, I haven't been abducted, not that I know of. I've had a couple of strange things happen. And I've had the offers of, Jimmy, maybe you should be regressed. Maybe you should look into this a little bit. And this is my take, Elliot. No, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I'm okay with it now. And if something happened, it happened, but I'm not going to go there. That's my way of dealing with it. Why? Because where do I take that? Who do I talk to about it? You know, you're not, you know what I mean? Friends, family, and what, your coworkers, the people that you go to school with.
Yeah.
No, so what would I do with that information? It is a difficult situation. Hey, I want to share this with you. Check this out. This past weekend. So, I mean, there's no question we're being visited. None. I've seen, you've seen, you know, okay. But I'm with a group of people. We go out to Palm Springs and we go out to Giant Rock, right? Oh, yeah. Okay. And so we go up on the top of this hill next to Giant Rock. There's 20 of us. And we've got it going on. We've got food, drinks, chairs, you know, and we're parked on top of this hill. And not going to get into details, but we saw a lot of stuff. But check this out, this one thing. So off to the west, the sun was still setting. The sun was set, but you know how it is in the desert where the horizon is still a little yellow, right? Mm-hmm. But the sky is black above you, but you can see that thing. And so from that direction, over the mountain from behind it comes this bright orange thing. Now, I thought it was an airplane with its landing lights on. It was that low and that bright. Like, you know how it is when you're looking right dead on an airplane, right? And how bright it is. That's what it was. So, and it's coming right at us, and it's orange. It's not white. It's not blue. It's orange. And, you know, and it's coming and it's going over, and Billy Carson's with us. And Billy goes, no, it's an airplane. Don't shine the lasers on it. Okay. All right. And I'm looking, I'm like, I don't see any landing lights, man. I'm not feeling, and I get the night vision on it. It's not a plane. It's just a bright, but then this happens. It gets about to 1 o'clock, like 10 degrees past us. And it goes just like this. It's low too. It's low. It's like few thousand feet, but it goes gone. It's and Billy goes, I reserve the right to correct myself. That wasn't a plane. Now, and you see something like that. And, you know, what would Neil deGrasse Tyson say if he witnessed something like that? What's the skeptic's answers? But you see something like that, and you just have to step back and go, man, something's here, and it ain't us. Or it's us from the future.
I mean, I absolutely concur. We are being visited. The question is, what are we being visited by? Who are these entities? Are they benevolent space brothers, or there was another agenda? Do you think it's a mix, though?
You know, the universe is a big place. I wanted to ask you this. You know, we know now. We didn't know this 30 years ago, but we know now that every star's got planets. Every star in the universe, which would suggest to me not infinite amounts of life, but pretty damn close. Okay. So could there be an immense variety of things that are visiting us? Good, some maybe in the middle, then some, you know what I mean? And could it be a variety of things? And those that are abducting are the ones that, you know, don't have a moral meter, a moral compass?
I'll tell you what I think. And I know that this goes against the grain of a lot of people, because people go, Elliot, the universe is so, you know, trillions of stars and galaxies and everything else. I mean, there's got to be life out there. Well, that's a straw man argument. I mean, Fermi's paradox tells us this, that with all this stuff out there, where's the contact? What are we waiting for? Why this cloak and dagger game that's been going on for who knows how long, right? Why not just reveal themselves? And don't give me the Star Trek thing with the prime directive. I'm not buying that either. So we know this, that, well, let me put it to you this way. There's two schools of thought, like we talked about before. There's what ancient aliens promulgate, and certainly New Age circles will promulgate, that the universe is a very large place, and this whole thing evolved over billions of years of creation. When you sit down and look at Richard Dawkins, one of the premier evolutionists of the 21st century, and when asked, well, where did life come from? And Dawkins says, well, we don't know. Where does the first self-replicating molecule come from? Ben Stein asks Dawkins this, and Dawkins has no answer. So Stein throws him a lifeline, an intellectual lifeline. Well, how do you think it could have happened? And Dawkins answers, well, it could have happened this way. Somewhere in the universe, 1 million years ago, there was a race of alien beings that somehow, through evolutionary process, arrived at some, great intellectual level of civilization. Well, that's circular reasoning. Where did they come from? How did their life start? So nobody knows. And if everyone's really intellectually honest, nobody knows what this is or where we are in it. And you can sit down with the greatest physicist and say, well, where are we in the universe? And no one knows, because they don't know where Earth is or where we are in relationship, or even if the universe has an end. So the biblical prophetic narrative, the guidebook of the supernatural, as I prefer to call it, tells us in the beginning was the Word, and Word was with God, or was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were created by him, and without him was without nothing that was made. So that is in direct contrast to evolution. So we have this entity, the Word, Yeshua, who speaks everything into existence. So, okay, well, that's really wacky, which is completely supernatural, totally supernatural. But he speaks everything into existence. So then we got back to 2,000 years ago, where this guy is roaming around in the Middle East by the name of Jesus, who's doing exactly that. He's speaking things out, and people are healed of leprosy, of blindness. He raises people. He's speaking it out. So we have what the guidebook of the supernatural says happened, but then we've got a demonstrative entity who's actually manifesting it while on Earth, which is flippin' bizarre. But I'm of the belief that right now, this is it. And I realize I'm going against the grain here. Even the Vatican now believes in the plurality of worlds. So I'm back 500 years ago with what the mindset was. And the reason for this is I cling to Fermi's paradox, which says if there's life teeming in the universe, where the heck are they? I mean, come on. Enough of this cloak and dagger nonsense that we see, right? Enough. Land here and show yourself. They don't do that. This is and it's almost like they're being restrained, Jimmy. It's almost like they want to come in. Not yet. No, we're not allowing you in. It's almost like the good guys are holding them back. Now, let me jump from that into what I think is going to happen. And the late David Flynn and I talked about this before he passed away. The grid, the World Wide Web, the grid, when it lights up, everything changes. And they've lit it up a couple of times. When the earthquake happened, the 9.2 earthquake, 9.1 earthquake off Fukushima, Japan, the grid was lit up. And we saw the tidal wave come in real time. We all saw it. That's the grid being lit up. Hey, guys, look at this. Every station, every channel, everything, the grid is in solidarity. This is what this is what you're going to be looking at. And everybody saw it. The next time the grid really lit up was COVID, and the grid lit up. This is it. Worldwide pandemic, 15 days to flatten the curve, all the nonsense. Okay, I get it. So the grid is there. Right now, the grid is benevolent. It can spy on us. It can do this. I get all that. But it's still somewhat benevolent. When Hiroshima was nuked and Nagasaki a couple of days later was also nuked, we didn't see that. There was no grid then. We heard about it via the press. We saw some photographs, but not like today, when the entire planet is in geosynchristic syncretic. I forget the word. It's all
It's real time.
Yeah,
it's
it's
real
real
time.
time.
It's real time no matter where you are.
I think is the word. Geosyncratic. It's all in synchronization.
Mhm.
And satellites are all over the Earth in different orbits, right? So what would create the greatest amount of fear on this planet? You have a nuclear device going off anywhere, and you are going to create the greatest collective fear in human history. In all of history, this is it. And what's terrorizing, what gets me is right now, you've got Ukraine and Russia saber rattling with tactical nukes. Have you guys lost your flipping minds? Have you lost your minds? Why is this even on the flipping table? But it's on the table, and they're threatening each other with the use of nukes and tactical nukes and neutron bombs and all this. I mean, have you lost your mind? So if one goes off over there, the satellite, the grid system will show that. It'll create the greatest collective fear in human history, hands down. Everyone will be going, "Oh my gosh, is this it?" That's when they show up.
Yeah. That's a really good point. That's a fantastic point. And I think that we saw the testing of the system.
Oh yeah,
with COVID for sure.
absolutely, yeah,
You
definitely.
flip the switch. How can you get everybody in the same dance step globally?
In lockstep. How do you do that?
How do you do? Can we do it? I think that was, and well, let's test it. Flip, boom, okay. Because when you look at somebody like, and it's never been like this in history.
No,
and it's only where you have pick somebody, Taylor Swift, right? Pick somebody. Justin Bieber's got the most followers on Twitter. He's got more followers than Barack Obama, right? And so somebody like that with an Instagram, 300 million followers, that kind of influence, which is that fast, right? That fast. They can post right. They can say whatever they want and emotionally affect 200, 300, 400 million people in a nanosecond. That's crazy. That's you're right about that. The system can get lit up, and it can be lit up by individuals. It can be lit up by state actors, and as we saw in a global situation, which we just went through. Yeah, tremendous. Okay, now I want to stay on the religious side of this. Oh, by the way, I'm going to tell you this right now. I've done thousands of shows, right? Thousands. It's a big number. And every time I bring up the Bible, this is what I say. Oh, yeah, well, L.A. Marzulli says. So I've got you here. This is Tom DeLonge was on the show. He's done like 2 interviews, right? That's it. One was here. And he said something, LA. I don't know if you caught it. I'm sure you heard about it. But he said one thing in that interview that I haven't forgotten. He says that in the military circles in the Pentagon, you have career officers that are running the Pentagon that have a firm Christian foundation. And they know that ET contact is here, and they look at it as demonic, as something that is bad and negative from a religious point of view. And when he said that, now it makes a lot of sense. And what do you make of that kind of statement for those out there? Because Christianity is big, right? It's big. The Vatican is big. Christianity is big. That kind of mindset is a scary one. Is it prevalent out there? What do you make of that kind of statement?
Well, I think the statement is correct. I mean, I really do. And when I'm talking about this, a lot of people have preconceived notions because they were brought up in Sunday school or church, or they see people on TV or whatever it is. the first thing we have to realize is we're not talking about, churches and buildings and stained glass windows and robes and monks with funny haircuts and incense stenchers and confessionals and processionals and pictures of dead saints. We're not talking about any of that. It's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a personal experience with the God of the universe. And how does the person get that? They ask for it. They say they believe on him who was sent, which is Jesus. They believe on him who was sent, and they believe in the works of the cross. It's a 3-hour conversation. We are in a cosmic war, and it hails back of the Genesis 3:15 narrative. And when I'm lecturing at conferences or places, I start off with Genesis 3:15, and I tell people, unless you understand Genesis 3:15, you don't understand this book. You'll never understand this book. You never will. You'll never get it. Genesis 3:15, you got Jesus in the garden. You got Adam and Eve over here, and you got the dragon, the serpent over here. And Jesus says to the serpent, your seed, your offspring will be at war with the seed, the offspring of the woman. From the woman will come someone who will crush your head, dragon. He's going to take you out. You'll bruise his heel, but he's going to take you out. It's the whole Bible. It's the whole ball of wax. It's everything. It's everything, because the rest of the biblical narrative deals with the seed. Where does the seed come from? Where does that? And finally, when Abraham is tapped out thousands of years ago, now we know where the seed is. Now the dragon and goes after Abraham and the seed of Abraham. Why does Hitler go after the Jews? Because, well, the seed already happened. The one who crushed the dragon's head already happened. But now the dragon's going, if we wipe out all the Jews, the prophecy can't happen of the Jews being regathered in their ancient homeland. So we win. We win again. But that's not what happens. Out of the ashes of the Holocaust, the nation of Israel rises. So the seed war manifests with Jesus thousands of years after that prophecy. And when you read the dragon's trying to kill him, but he lays down his life. And when he does that, where does he go after he's dead? Where does he go? The Bible tells us. And Bible just means book. What this is a guidebook to the supernatural. So Yeshua, Jesus, gives up a spirit. The body's hanging on a cross. So a human being is composed of spirit, soul, and body. The body's there, but the soul and the spirit have left. Where do they go? They go to the deepest dungeons on the planet, in the center of the earth. And there Jesus talks to the fallen angels who mingled their seed in Genesis, which created the Nephilim. And he says, you're not getting out. It's over. It's checkmate. I just won. I've written 2 books on this, The Cosmic Chess Match and Counter, How the Nephilim Returned After the Flood. So once a person grasps the seed war, everything changes. Everything changes. Now, that's then. What does this have to do with UFOs? What's being taken? Women are being abducted. They're impregnated. In the 3rd month, the baby is taken from them. Where does it go? Enter the cattle mutilations. Bovine blood. This is the movie we're working on. It's going to be released very shortly. When the cattle mutilations, bovine blood, cow blood, can be used in human blood transfusions. Not many people know that. When you take the udders, the sex organs, the area, the genetic material around the cow, you're creating an artificial womb for that hybrid child that you've just taken from the woman who's a Nephilim hybrid. It's a hybrid child. It's not human. It's not totally human. It's a mixture. It's a mingling of the seed. Their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but will not cleave to them, which is what's going on now. The cattle mutilations, you take that material, you create an artificial womb, you reabduct the woman, you take that fetus, you place it in the artificial womb. And this is why people on board the craft have gone into these rooms and they've seen the vats, the vials with different hybrids in different stages of gestation. This is what's going on. And then you don't dispose of the cow's body in the ocean someplace where no one will ever find it. Oh, no. You put it back in the farmer's field. Farmer comes out, looks at the cow, he's scared. Shows his wife and his family, they're terrorized. Officer comes out, he looks at it, he's scared. Veterinarian comes out, he's afraid. Fear, fear, fear. Local newspaper comes out, click, 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 click. Guy writes a thing. Now the fear factor has gone all throughout the community. Fear is the calling card of darkness. That's what it is. Fear is the calling card of darkness, which is why, going back to the nuke, when the nuke is detonated in Ukraine, Russia, Poland, wherever, that creates the greatest collective fear that the planet has ever experienced together. And that's when they show up as our so-called space brothers. Because they did not believe the truth, Jehovah, God, sends them strong delusion. This is where we are. This is why we're making the films. This is why I'm writing the books I'm writing. This is why I'm talking to you right now on the.
Wow, that is dark. That is dark. That's not the same guy that played the piano earlier. It's it's coming now. In September, in 2 months, we're going to have some probes come back from the asteroid Bennu. And the last, it was like 4 months ago, the last probes, it's Japanese, well, it was an international project headed up by the Japanese. And it's again confirming what we already knew from other meteorites that have landed on Earth that have the basic sugars, the fundamental ingredients of RNA, and with and RNA and DNA. We talk about DNA all the time. RNA doesn't get the respect that it deserves, right? But nonetheless, that survives space. That's a crazy, and so we've just got this stuff from this past asteroid 3 months ago. Everything is there. All those fundamental sugars and the building blocks of life are being, transported throughout the universe. And we're going to see that again from Bennu. Now, I'm predicting that we're going to see this from Bennu. We haven't got it back yet. But that would indicate to me a third, fourth, fifth repetition of this. That's what science is about, right? Replicate, measure, observe.
Right.
That DNA is universal, truly universal, and that whatever is here, just like you're saying, right? It is everywhere. Well, what designed this? What put this together? This is not Richard Dawkins. This is where, okay, look, I don't talk bad about anybody, but except for Richard Dawkins. He's Richard Dawkins. The thing is about Dawkins is that he's very smart. There's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah, he's brilliant.
He's brilliant, but he's not the smartest person on the planet. He thinks he is, and that his mind is closed down. And when he suggests that it's all luck, all right? That Ben Stein interview that you're talking about,
right?
In there, Dawkins says, I'm so glad that you brought that up. Dawkins says this. Well, what do you mean? A bolt of lightning hit a crystal in a creek bed. There were some chemicals on it, and DNA appeared. Just luck. And I was like, dude, how can you? What are the odds of that?
Right.
No. And as it turns out, it's things like Bennu and asteroids that are moving this stuff around, and somebody has to design this. That kind of chemistry isn't put together by chance, is it?
No, it's not. And again, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were created by him. Without him was not anything made that was made. Now, we can believe that, or we can say, well, that's just, religion. But what if it's the truth? What if it's the truth? Because it tells you exactly, the Word is Jesus. That's John is writing and using a Greek analogy, because the Greeks were really into the Word. And so that's he kind of puts Jesus as the Word. But then when this entity 2,000 years ago, Jesus is walking around, he's doing exactly that. When he feeds the 5,000 ex nihilo, how does he do that? When he speaks out to the lepers and heals them on a cellular or molecular level, how does he do that? See, the problem is that this book has become religious. You know, hominis vobiscum, with monks with funny haircuts and robes, and you've got to go to confessional and the St. Anne relics and all this. It has nothing to do with anything. These are the trappings of men. That's all they are. They're man-made gobbledygook nonsense for the most part. Maybe the intentions are good, but all it does is move people away. Look at the people who that were brought up in church and just go, right? Please don't give me this nonsense. I don't want to hear it. But when we actually delve into what happened 2,000 years ago, when the Spirit of a living God came into those people who asked for it, which happened to me 43 years ago. I'm not the same guy I was 43 years ago. I'm not. In some ways, I still carry around all the hurt and the bitterness and everything else, but all that's been pushed away. It's been healed up because of a living God. But it's not what people think it is. And when the Spirit of a living God comes into a man or a woman, things change. You will change. And the first time he speaks to you is a flip out. I mean, it really is. You just kind of go, oh my gosh, I think the Lord just spoke to me.
Well, okay, so that is the best science fiction that you can present.
It is.
Right?
It's totally. It's unbelievable.
Right. So when let me ask you this, LA. When science today, physicists and the quantum knowledge, and I'm glad we are where we are today, no doubt.
Yeah.
We're learning a lot. But when they present the ideas like entanglement,
Right,
and what is going on there, and the ability to connect to affect particles on the other side of the universe, right? The other side of the universe, right?
yeah, I have that word.
At the speed of now.
Right.
Well, and then we look at passages in the Bible where the voices are coming from the stars, and this it seems like they're talking about entanglement. It seems like we're talking about a communication across the vastness of space with somebody, with a disembodied voice, with somebody that you can't see. And that would suggest what physicists are trying to teach us today about entanglement, qubits, quantum computers. It's all in the Bible if we think about it, which I remember you said to me once, Jimmy, the Bible is the best science fiction book ever written, right? I never forgot that. But are we talking about the same things here?
Well, yes and no. I mean, when you think of so this guy Daniel, 2,500 years ago. So Daniel is praying. He's throwing up requests, and this angel messenger, this entity. See, when you say angel right off the bat, some people go click. Oh, he's talking about angels now. No. Just take that out. You're looking at an entity that's incredibly powerful, who can manipulate space, time, matter, and energy in ways that defy our physics. That's what I'm talking about. And this entity tries to get to Daniel, but wait a minute. There's this character called the Prince of Persia who's blocking the gate, blocking the entryway, the Stargate, blocking the area in which in order to come to Daniel, this entity's got to go through the Prince of Persia. He's not letting them through. So the entity, the good guy, has to go back and get reinforcements. And he does. He gets Michael and the boys, and they come in and they fight. And the angel finally appears to Daniel and goes, hey, I was dispatched 21 days ago, but I was restrained. I was held up. I couldn't come through the gateway, the portal. Couldn't get here. Prince of Persia was blocking me. We are looking at a heavenly war. But we're also looking at the fact that somehow Daniel shoots off his request, and this messenger is dispatched. That's unbelievable. And he's dispatched the moment Daniel says this, and way over here in another galaxy far, far away, the good guy is dispatched, but he's restrained, blocked. Nope, not getting through the Prince of Persia. He's got to get reinforcements. Then the reinforcements come in and they knock the Prince of Persia down. The messenger finally can come in and talk to Daniel. It's one of the few places in the Guidebook of a Supernatural where we get glimpses of what's really going on. Because we are, right now, the planet is seething. We are on a war footing, have been for thousands of years. But this thing is ramping up in ways that I've never seen. It is ramping up. There's no doubt about it. The forces of darkness are ramping up.
The Brian Greene, another brilliant guy, right? But in his one of his recent interviews, it happened about a month ago, and I was listening to it. He says this, and like everybody in those scientific, not everybody, but most, won't discuss consciousness, and they don't. It's just that's the red line. That's the line that they don't cross. But Brian says this, and it was fascinating. He says his research that he's working on now. Check this. Okay, this is Brian Greene. He says what he's working on now is the ability to send a message across the universe and get a reply before the message is sent. Now, let's analyze that for a second, right? Okay, so you send it, how you doing, right? There's your message. The reply comes back, I'm fine, before you send the message. Now, what are we really talking about here? Right? Now, it's science fiction for sure, right? That's what, or is it something else? And that kind of communication, if it's possible, which is what his work is, isn't this what we have been talking about for millennia? Right? That's
the Guidebook of a Supernatural says that the God of the universe knows what you're going to ask before you ask it.
That's what I'm saying.
That's exactly what you're saying. And
yeah.
it's in the guidebook. He knows our thoughts. He knows what we're going to ask before we ask it, because he's outside of space and time, which enables him to do this. So from our perspective, because we're locked into the space-time continuum, that seems like, how can he do that? But look, I'm in the shower one night. This is this year. We were skiing up in Mammoth. We're getting ready to go out for dinner. So I'm already thinking we're going to go to an undisclosed location in Europe. We're going to film probably in February, January of next year, 2024. I'm getting things lined up, looking at finances, looking at tour guides, trying to line up the people we're going to interview, all this kind of stuff, right? I'm in the shower, minding my own business, a little tap on the shoulder, right? And it's just this, don't go. Now, I know his voice because it's been 43 years. So I know his voice. And I'm really ticked off. I go, what do you mean don't go? I mean, are you kidding me? I'm like ticked off here. So I get out of the shower, I get ready for dinner. I don't say anything to my wife, Peggy. We go out for dinner. I finally calm down a little bit and I go, okay, I got a confession to make. She goes, what? I go, Lord spoke to me in the shower. She goes, really? What did he say? And I go, and he goes, and I go, we're not going to Europe. She kind of goes like this. And the moment I release that, this is how it works. The moment I release that, then he gives me my marching orders because I've been obedient first to what he said. I was obedient. Don't go. Okay, we're not going to go. I don't know what you got up your sleeve, but I'm going to go with this because you're good and you're good all the time. So I did what I was supposed to do. Now, I didn't have to do that, free will. I could have said, no, I'm going. I don't care. I don't care what you say. I'm going. Could have done that, but I didn't because I know when he's talking like that, okay, he's got a reason. I'm going with it. So I said, okay, we're not going to Europe. Peggy goes, and then I get my marching orders. And you know what it was? Finish all the UFO films before the end of the year. Finish them before the end of 2023. We have 4 films to get out. So number 1 of that 4 is the cattle mutilations film. My partner, business partner, Gil Zimmerman's flying in tomorrow. We'll be putting the final, looking at it on my big, huge computer screen right over there. It's a 42-inch curved monitor. It's just, yes.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, way to go. So we're coming in, we're putting the finished touches on that. That'll be available in a couple of weeks probably. Then we've got the 2 films on Roswell. We were down in Roswell. We shot all this footage. We were up in Montana. We spoke to Linda Marcel, Jesse Marcel Jr.'s widow, Denise Marcel, his daughter. We talked to the guy who runs Doctor, forgive me, I can't think of his first name, but he runs the Jesse Marcel Jr. Museum up in Montana, and we interviewed him. Tim Alberino, I know you know Tim real well.
He's great. He's great.
So Tim, we interviewed him, and so we've got all this material, and we're out in the debris field.
Now don't get ahead of your skis, young man. I'm still the host of this show. We'll do that when we come back. Let's take a quick break. Our guest tonight, L.A. Marzulli. That's right. He just got back from Roswell. What happened? We'll talk about all of that after this short break. Stay with us. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Please visit all of our sponsors. We're taking a quick break here. All of the links are below. We'll be right back. Join us November 10th, 11th, and 12th, 2023 as Disclosure Fest Foundation and Fade to Black Radio presents Stairway to the Stars, a Human Origins Science and Technology Expo, live at the Luxor Hotel and Casino on the Las Vegas Strip. With live talks, lectures, and workshops by world-acclaimed researchers and authors. This is Jimmy Church, by the way, and I'll be your host all weekend long. Featuring topics like human origins, ancient technologies, indigenous teachings, workshops, a mass meditation, yoga and sound healing, music, and so much more. Don't miss our intimate sky watch and meteor shower over the infamous Area 51 airspace in Rachel, Nevada, with special surprise celebrity hosts guiding us through the night. Also introducing our Disclosure Fest VR Starship area with dozens of rides. You've got to check it out. This event will sell out. For more information and tickets, please visit disclosurefest.org. Hi, everybody. Jimmy Church here. Very special announcement, and that is we are shipping Fade to Black t-shirts again. It's been almost 2 years. We did a full upgrade to the website, so you can head over to jimmychurchradio.com. It's all simple to do, and it's right there. Remember, we broadcast 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday. We bring you the best, the brightest, the most knowledgeable and amazing guests, the best conversations. We do that 4 nights a week. We also do 4 days a week. We broadcast the news, and we do that live too as well. It's not a one-man show. I do it with website support. I do it with producers. I do it with writers and artists. All contribute to the show. The best way to help support what we do here is with the Fade to Black t-shirt. And you can get your Fade to Black t-shirt one of 2 ways. First, go to jimmychurchradio.com, order a shirt. It's really that simple. You're going to get a tracking number, it's going to get shipped, and it's going to get autographed. The second way to get a shirt is with a Game Changer membership. Now, the Game Changer membership not only includes a free t-shirt, but you get a private email to me. You get unlimited commercial-free downloads. You have full access to the website, and everything includes free shipping, and everything is autographed. So help support the show. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. The links are below. You can just go to jimmychurchradio.com, and it's right on the website. So there you go. I'm Jimmy Church, Fade to Black. I'm so excited that I just have one thing to say. Go Beckley Teppy. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, L.A. Marzulli. get back to LA in a second. I just want to watch him laugh in the break room in the back. I was watching the comments earlier that I wear a wig. Look, is this a wig? Is this you know what? I don't know, LA. I don't know how long I'm going to have this glorious thing.
Yeah, look at this,
You know,
folks. There you go.
Yeah. I remember the old LA. I do. So this is LA, and I were talking about, getting up there. The birthdays are swinging by pretty quick now.
Yeah,
So yesterday, before the show, this is a part of getting old, LA. Yesterday, before the show, I spilled coffee on my main console and blew it up. Sparks, right? Blew it up. So I pulled the console out of my rehearsal room that I have in the back of the house. I brought that console, and that's the one that I'm using now. The old console is leaning up against the wall there. I've got a new one being delivered tomorrow. But that's not the point. The point is, a close friend of mine listened to the show last night and heard what happened and sent me a gift today. This is a part of getting old. Sent me for your desk a tip-over proof coffee holder. So now my coffee sits in this. It's heavy, right? It's got the,
not going anywhere.
And now my age is protected.
Yes, you're in there. There you go.
Man, part of getting there. But at least I got the hair. The hair is it's hanging on. It's hanging on. I don't dye it. You can see the gray, right? See the gray? It's kind of going. So I've got this gray patch right here that streaks back. It looks real cool. Kind of digging it. But I don't dye it. I don't do anything. It's just, this is all, did you freak out? I'm welcoming the gray. When it kicked in for you, did you kind of go, oh man?
Well, I mean, if you look at, it's somewhat gray, but I've got some gray in it. It's sort of blondish brown, but my hair is pretty gray. I'm definitely,
it's gray. It's gray.
It's definitely gray. So it's it's a trip. Can
I throw you under the bus a little bit?
Please, I'm ready.
Just a little. It's not that big of a deal. Earlier today, we were talking, and we were talking about our ages, and we did the big reveal. You're 73, and I guess you are, because I'm 60. All right, but it took me a minute to digest that one. The fountain of youth, you found it obviously, but 73, man, that rocks. That's just absolutely incredible. Seriously.
Well, I run on the beach. I live in the Santa Monica Mountains, so I run on the beach every day, every other day. It depends. And then I work out in my home gym. You got to do something. You can't sit around.
You can't.
So I'm only running a mile on the sand, not on the asphalt, not on the concrete, because of your knees. It'll ruin your knees. But the sand, it's automatic shock absorbers. And so I run on the sand, half a mile up, half a mile back, or if I'm really feeling good, a mile up and a mile back, but that's it. Like 5-6 years ago, I was running 4-6 miles, I don't do that. So it's a mile or 2 miles at the most. And then, my workout in my home gym, instead of driving 30 minutes to the gym and having to deal with the meat market and the whole deal, I don't. I got this great machine. I do 7 or 8 exercises, 3 reps of each. I watch what I eat. I intermittent fast. I eat 1 meal a day, basically, essentially. Lots of water. And I have wine with my meals.
That's excellent. You know what? I put in a gym here at the house too, as well.
Yeah.
And I was able to, the only way, so I really had to shop for this, but all of the equipment that I have has shot glass holders for my vodka and and an ashtray. So
There you
I'm
go.
able
Yeah,
to
see?
so I'm able to work out. But yeah, that I think that I'm kidding.
Of
I'm
course.
kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't smoke when I work out. I drink, but I don't. The I think that's part of it, though. We have certainly experienced this last couple of years, which confined us all to our homes and in front of our computers. Now, for a lot of companies out there, like Amazon or Netflix or whatever, did okay in the pandemic because people were sitting in front of their computers watching content and streaming and TV and movies, and the theaters came into the home and all of that. We had all the live performances, and live streaming really took off. But the downside to that is people were not exercising. We're not and eating bad. What do? You got comfort food and YouTube. You've got to get the blood flowing. Speaking of that, you went to Roswell, and I don't know how far you're going to let me take this, but it's my job to extract all of the information I can get out of you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. So you went to Roswell. Why did you go to the debris field?
Well, I mean, the debris field is iconic, isn't it? I mean, it's the place where either a weather balloon crashed or something else crashed. And so we went there. And just so people know, to get there, you're driving back up to Albuquerque, Santa Fe. You're driving away from Roswell about 45 minutes to an hour. And it's a nice road. It's, 2 lanes here, 2 lanes there, and, going each way. And then you make a left-hand turn and you're on a 2-lane road for about 40 minutes. Then you make another left-hand turn and you're on a cattle road, a dirt road that's well-maintained. It's got gravel on it, 2 lanes. Well, it's one and a lane and a half, basically. But it's open cattle. I mean, it's just open grazing. It's, free range, cattle everywhere, cattle on the road. And you just got to, you can go 35, 40 miles an hour tops. And then after about 30 minutes on that, then there's a cattle gate. You got to know where to go in. And you open the cattle gate, and now you're on it's a 4-wheel drive road. We were in a SUV, 2-wheel drive with not off-terrain tires. So we moved very, very slow. Our guide was in a pickup truck with all-terrain tires and 4-wheel drive, but he knew where we were. So he blazed the trail. We went very, very slowly. And there you are in the debris field. And I get out, and it's like, you got to pinch yourself. I've been reading about this thing since I was 16 years old. And here we are. I'm in the debris field. The 2 people that we were with, Chester Kukowski and Ken, both of them had metal detectors. Now, the powers that be have seeded much of a debris field with metal spikes in the ground. So when you go over with your metal detector, it's just going to go off because it's been seeded deliberately to throw off people like Ken and me and Chuck and everybody else. So we're there with Gil Zimmerman and Jim Peterson, and we do something which may have never have happened since 1947. We took authority over the place. Okay, the 3 of us were Christian men. We took authority over the place, and we just took authority over it. I'll say that. Less than 5 minutes later, Frank is way off, about 75 yards away, and he goes, "Hey guys, I got a hit. Come over." So we got the cameras and stuff. That's why we're there, and we go over. It's all on film. And he's going boop, boop, boop at the ground. The ground's here. Boop, boop. And there's obviously something metallic that's buried there. So he's got a little gardener's spade, and he's digging like this. And he's down about 4 or 6 inches. He's got a pile of dirt, and now we know we've taken this thing out of the hole. It's no longer there. So he takes a piece of the dirt. Here's the metal detector. Nothing there. Puts the dirt over here. Takes another piece of dirt. Goes like this. Nothing there. Puts it over here. Does this, and finally, so now he knows he has it in his hand. Okay. So he spills a little bit of dirt and goes over the metal detector again, still in his hand, does this, and finally he finds it. It's a piece of metal about that big, the end of my finger. Where's my
Okay.
But right like that. Very, very small. It's folded in on itself, kind of like this. It's folded in. It's got striation, and the color doesn't look like anything that I've seen. But Frank has seen this because he's been out to the debris field numerous times, and he's collected pieces of the wreckage, and he knows what it looks like because he's already had it tested. And he's like beside himself. He goes, "Oh my gosh, this is it. We found a piece of the wreckage." And so, we flag and bag that, to flag and tag it, and he continues in the area. He finds another one about 15, 20 minutes later. All this is on film. I held both of them in my hands. So we had the metal tested. This is all in our upcoming film on Roswell.
What color was it?
Huh?
What color was it?
It's really, really good question. It's multicolored. It's multicolored. It's kind of, it's hard to describe. When the film comes out, you'll be able to see it because it's on film. I actually showed it. I was at a conference last weekend or 2 weekends ago, and we showed the clip from the Roswell, digging this thing out and holding it in my hand. We show the whole thing. I mean, we're not making this stuff up. We had the metal tested. Chuck Zukowski did. And the closest thing to it, according to Chuck, is 1972. It's an aluminum alloy, but it doesn't match. It's not a direct match. It's close, but not a direct match. And what we find interesting, 1972, this metal was buried there for decades. It's from the crash. And there's a UFO crash from White Sands. It was probably smuggled out by somebody, and I show the clip. So the UFO, I use a little prop here. The UFO comes in like this. It hits the ground and bounces up, and then flies like this, and then hits the ground again. And this time when it hits the ground, it explodes in thousands of little pieces. I mean, it just explodes. They didn't get it all. Frank found 3 buttons. We interviewed Frank, and Frank found 3 buttons in the debris field from military fatigues that were issued between 1940 and 1950. So we got a bunch of smoking guns. But of course, the big one is the metal. And it's not a weather balloon, and it's an aluminum alloy, which isn't present until 1972. And there's two pieces we found. Frank has a collection. We show this on film before we get to we interviewed Frank before we ever got to the debris field. So Frank had this little, like a shadow box with the pieces of the metal inside the box with a glass cover. And he shows us this on film. Well, to go find 2 pieces like that in the debris field, I mean, for me, that was mind-boggling. So we've got Jesse Marcel Jr.'s widow, Linda, coming in telling us that, she spoke to Jesse Marcel Sr. Denise knew her grandfather. I interviewed Jesse Marcel Jr. when he was alive. We've got all these people and other researchers coming on the record. And basically our story is what we're trying to do with these 2 films on Roswell is vindicate Marcel's name, because he was a patsy like Lee Harvey Oswald was. He was just a patsy. They just threw him right under the bus. And, when he's holding the weather balloon, he's looking up at Gemma Ramey, kind of going like, "You've got to be kidding me," right? Because that's the look. I'm a student of body language. That's the look. I mean, it's obvious. He's like, "You got to be kidding me." You're seriously? But they rolled him out. He was the patsy. And, he was military. And so he did what he was told to do. He was a patriot. They said, "Shut up, deal with it." And he dealt with it. But it tore the family apart. And obviously, when he finally went on the record with Stanton Friedman, thank God for Stanton Friedman, that's when everything blew open. So to actually be standing in a debris field and find two pieces of the debris, 65 years later. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So cool. So cool.
Yeah.
Now, staying with Roswell for a minute, the UFO hearing that went down, I can't believe it's almost
Last
been
week.
a month, almost 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, with Grush.
Yes, where he says, I've got the addresses and I'll give you
Right.
the locations of everything later. So that's a pretty dramatic statement. And it's also a warning to any of the locations that would have something in their possession. So the addresses may be legit, and maybe but I would think that everything's been moved over the last couple of weeks, right? And maybe even over the last 6 months, knowing that this information was about to get exposed, and Congress and the Senate and others were going to find out for the first time, firsthand, what is going on. Do you think that would apply to Roswell and Wright Pat? Where the statements from the military back then were direct, that we are flying this to Fort Worth. It's going to go from Fort Worth to Wright Pat, and we're going to analyze everything there.
We actually spoke to a couple who were in end of life situations with a Colonel Hill, who was OSS, a forerunner of the CIA, who did a deathbed confession. He was flown to Roswell within 24 hours after the crash. He was flown because one of the entities, one of the biologicals, was still alive. He was an interrogator, so he was trying to communicate with this thing. He couldn't communicate it with it. Typical gray, big eyes. It had 6 fingers, a silver jumpsuit, and he couldn't communicate with it. And he said on the record that, yeah, the stuff was flown into Wright Pat. We were just in Ohio, and we did a little really cool thing. We pulled up to one of the gates, which isn't guarded. We jumped out of the car with cell phones, and I did a quick 1-minute deal with Wright Pat in the background for the Roswell film. So we have that on film. All the stuff was flown to Wright Pat. There's no doubt about it. The place is huge. But this is what we're seeing in Congress is the dog and pony show. Let me explain. So on Tucker Carlson, I'm actually writing a book on this, The Ladders of Disclosure. Commander David Fravor shows up on Tucker Carlson. Well, how does that happen? And why now? Why 2017? And why does Commander David Fravor show up on a Friday night with which it once was classified information of a UAP, UFO, with a tic-tac shape, this whole thing? Fravor goes, whatever this was not on this earth. Okay. And I had one guy write, that's a subjective viewpoint. Well, it's a subjective viewpoint based on decades of objectivity. He's a trained witness. He knows what's out there. He knows what the Chi-Coms have. He knows what the Ruskies have. So is it subjective? Yeah, you could call it that. But let's face it, it's subjectivity based on his objectiveness. So
he's a friggin' F-18 pilot, man.
Give me a break. Give me a break, right?
Right.
Give me a freaking break. Right? I took the critic to task and said, this is, what are you trying to do here? Fravor is military. Who comes on next? Luis Elizondo. We have metal from crashed UFOs, which we're testing. Elizondo is military. He was head of ATIP, Advanced Aeronautical Threat Identification Program. It's all about the threat. Christopher Mellon comes on Tucker Carlson a couple of weeks later. We've tested the metal. It's got isotopic ratios not found on this earth. Chris Mellon is CIA. Okay. Leslie Keene, handpicked. She's a conduit. All the information goes through Leslie Keene. She's a conduit. I mean, everybody involved, everybody. Look at Grush. He's military. This is what we're looking at is kabuki theater. It's a dog and pony show. It's an absolute joke. We've got UFOs that are in our possession that fly. Didn't Bob Lazar say that in the 90s?
Well, it was also in the Wilson Davis document too, as well. Which, if you take the debate over the Wilson Davis document, Is it well? It's not a document. It's a man's notes of a conversation, right? Eric Davis,
Right.
his notes with then recently retired Rear Admiral Thomas Wilson. But Thomas Wilson says in that document, nearly word for word, what Grush said to Congress, which is, I flew out. He didn't say skunk works, but it was skunk works, right?
Right.
So, and I met with three executives there, and they said, we have a craft. We think it can fly. We just can't fly it. And this is from Rear. It's exactly right. The same statements made by Grush, but it was in the Wilson Davis document. How much of this evidence do we need to pile up on top of each other before we start to, rationalize that this is real? But here's the other part, though. Why now, and why the fear factor? Why the threat narrative? That's the part that why I can't get the answers to those questions.
The Army had a chance to come clean before it was the Air Force, 1947.
1947, right?
And they went out with the truth. They actually told us the truth originally, and it's here.
Right.
That's the truth, right there. Okay, and then the powers that be got to it, and they lied to us, and that's this.
Yeah.
Ramey says excitement is not justified. Dun dun dun. And so for 76 years or whatever it is, we've had this lie, obfuscate, hire professional debunkers like Philip Klass and others. There are no such things as UFOs. You need a psychiatric examination. So now they're rolling it out to see what the reaction is. The reaction is flatline. Nobody cares. Jimmy,
Right. Yeah, I know. Isn't that the interesting? Isn't that the interesting part about all of this?
Unbelievable.
The Vatican didn't collapse. The stock market is still upright. Yeah,
nobody cares. And this is what they're doing. I think this is conjecture. I'm going out on a limb. I think the powers that be know what the end game is. The ones at the top of the pyramid. Grush, not so much, but he's a controlled whistleblower, in my opinion. He's like Elizondo. Okay, Louis, you're up next. Go. Okay, Christopher Mellon, you're up next. Go. Okay, Nick Pope, also military, but overseas. Go, Nick. It's the same players all the time. They never have another viewpoint. They never have someone like me on talking about an alternative viewpoint to this from a Christian perspective. They won't do that. So it's a controlled narrative. It's a managed agenda. I think that the ones at the top of the pyramid realize that they have made a league with a nefarious agency, that these people are not, we were deceived. So the old guard is dead. They're gone. In other words, the Ramies and the powers that be in 1947, they're long dead. So, the people that came up through the channels that are in control going, we've got to do something with this, because they are chomping at the bit to reveal themselves. How do we make this work? How do we make this work? What do we do with this? And so I believe that they're leeching it out. And notice it's Tucker Carlson. Why is it on Tucker Carlson? Because Tucker Carlson is a conservative. And who watches? Conservative Christian men and women. That's his primary audience. That's his home base.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah.
So they roll it out on Tucker first to see what the Christian community will do. Flatlined. Nobody cares. Not even there. The churches aren't talking about any of this. My phone's not ringing off the hook. I'm not being asked to speak every, granted, things are progressing a little bit, but nobody cares. It's absolutely mind-boggling. The churches don't talk about it, and this is the coming great deception. which the guidebook of a supernatural tells us exactly is going to happen in the latter days.
The guidebook of the supernatural. Man, I've stolen that from you. I've stolen so much from you over the years, but at least I admit it. All right, I give you all the props. Do you find? I have two questions. Hopefully, we can get both answers in with the time that we have left. Although there's a military background and spin and an intelligence agency spin with Grush, there's no doubt about it. That's
no doubt
that's
about
his
it.
CV, right?
But, wait, hold your question. And behind Grush, who was there? Jeremy Corbell. You know, why is Jeremy Corbell tapped out as the great? You know, look, Jeremy, I love you, pal. But when you talk to Richard Shaw, and Richard Shaw, who's passed away now, he was my business partner, and we gave you the footage that we paid for Dr. Roger Lear when we took out the implant and you made patient 17, and all Richard asked you to do was give us credit, and you didn't do that. So I take umbrage with that, because his flick, or his patient 17, is on Netflix, and we can't get the first base. How does that work? But Corbell is sitting right behind Grush, and then I think next to him, or the one is George Knapp. These are all players. They're handpicked. They're part of the program.
Now, do you find Grush credible?
Yeah,
and before you do, okay, because there one very, I mean, out of the whole hearing and everything that was said, it was crazy town for sure. That wasn't the most important part. The most important part was them raising their right hand and taking the oath and swearing to tell the truth on live television with a committee from Congress. Who is going to throw their life away talking about little green men under oath? Right? I mean, in chambers of the Congress. So that's the part where I give props to Grush, but I don't think that you would lie about that.
No, he's not
right.
lying.
No.
When Macy asked Grush, you know, were there any bodies recovered? Yeah, there were biologicals, which means there's bodies. Well, we all know that. You know, for those of us who have studied this for decades, that's old news. Of course, there were bodies. The bodies, some of them are up at Wright Pat. There's no doubt about it. Colonel Hill, you know, who was, I already talked about him, OSS, the whole deal, deathbed confession. He died a month after we told the two caregivers this whole deal. We had a woman, it's going to be in our Roswell film, who was a nurse in a hospital. And there was another nurse that she met. Where are you from? I'm from Roswell. And they got to talking. And was that an interesting interview?
Oh, man.
I think it was the nurse.
Really?
Yeah, I think it
now,
was.
The rumors, well, first off, the rumors were, I mean, so much behind her, right, over the years.
Right,
How many books has she been? I read so many books on Roswell, right, 30 years ago, right? That whole run of books.
The Holy Grail.
Randall, and yeah. And I read about the nurse so many times that I thought I was reading the same book again. I was like, have I read this already? But that she like disappeared the next day, sent to Europe, and then died mysteriously and was never heard from again. But so much. So you think that she was the nurse? We've never had her name. Do we have her name now?
No, we don't. Not that I'm aware of. I have the footage. It was really interesting. This woman came up at a conference and she says, I have a very interesting story about Roswell. I had no idea where she was going to go. And she starts talking about this. And I'm like at the edge of my seat because I realize she's talking about the nurse, you know, the nurse who knew all about it. And I haven't watched it in a while. I need to watch it again and kind of, but we're going to use that footage in our Roswell, 2 films on Roswell, because, you know, Roswell set the precedent for decades. This is what we were under. The old guard's dead, new guard's here. They're rolling it out, they're revealing it. And what I think we're trying to do is get ahead of where these guys want to show up. These guys really want to show up at this point, in my opinion. But they're being restrained. They're being held back. And again, it goes into the protocols to the guidebook of a supernatural. They're being restrained. It says that the enemy will not, the enemy will not reveal himself. And you now know what restrains him. He's being restrained. In other words, the protocols of the heavenly war, the dragon just doesn't have carte blanche. He just can't do whatever he wants to do. There's certain protocols of the war which we're not given privy to. We don't understand what they are. We're not given the list of you can do this, but you can't do this. But in other words, we know that they're breeding. We know that. We know that the abductions are real. So why is that allowed? But you can't reveal yourself until the time. Why is, why it's bizarre.
Yeah, it's a very important point. It's a very important point and a very important question that needs to be answered. I wanted to ask you, really, this is just yes or no. Have you been watching Good Omens?
No.
Okay. All right. I just saw your Sharpie. Take your Sharpie. There's a thing called handwriting. I don't know if you still do that, but Good Omens and Good Omens 2. Okay. All right. The second season just came out last week. I've already binged it. I'm not going to give it away. But there you go. That TV series was made for you, LA.
I'll check it out, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna love it. It's on Netflix. Okay. Or it might be Amazon, one of the two.
Okay.
Okay. Next question. If there is an intelligence behind the universe, call it what you want. Doesn't matter what name or noun you want to use. But if there's an intelligence behind that, then is a planet on the other side of the Milky Way or in Epsilon Botus or whatever, right? Is the baby Jesus hanging out there too? Is Jesus around at the Big Bang?
Well, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. He was with God in the beginning. The beginning. All things were created by him, and without him, nothing was not made that was made. So we either believe that, which tells us exactly who it is, what it was. He holds all things together. He is before all things, and he holds all things together. He is before all things, and he holds all things together. I've been doing this for 43 years with him.
So that's a yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yes. What?
Exactly.
So does ET have their own guidebook to the supernatural as well?
ET is, first of all, ET is not who we think it is. Again, let me ask you something. I'll turn it and throw it back.
Turn it around.
Yeah, is being abducted as a 5-year-old boy, being taken against your parents' will, and being implanted, is that a good thing?
Okay, let me say that. Nobody's going to raise their hand on that and say,
okay, nobody is.
But yet, here's the rub, though, LA. And I've got one more question I've got to get to you before the end of the night.
Okay.
When we go to the Amazon and we bag and tag a species.
Oh, here we go.
No, but listen.
I know the argument. Right.
Well, but this is my version of it, though. This is the whack version. Okay, I've got the whack version. We are taking a mom away from their kids. Right. And the kids are at home waiting for mom and dad to come home with dinner. And their parents just don't show up. Right. And in the meantime, they're taken to a lab, flown back to the United States, where they're dissected, bisected, analyzed, scrutinized underneath microscopes, sperm removed, eggs removed, studied on every level, then thrown in a freezer after they're put on microscope slides. We don't have issues with that. And with an advanced species that is, a million years in front of us, are we any different than a species in the Amazon to them?
Yeah, we are, because they know who we are, and they don't need to be. Jacques Vallée says this. Why are they doing the same stupid experiments over and over and over again? Why do they take sperm and ovum? They're creating an army. It goes back to the guidebook of the supernatural. The guidebook of the supernatural tells us that their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will
Right.
not cleave to them. I mean, it's like right there. Genesis 3:15. It's going to be a seed war between the offspring of the dragon and the offspring of the woman. It's right there. Connect the dots. Connect the dots. Is it okay, Jimmy Church, to take a cattle, drain its blood, mutilate it, and then just drop it back in the farmer's field?
No, it's one of the most disturbing. When did you catch? It was 2 months ago. 2 months ago.
Yeah, taking the tongues out of 6 cattle.
In Texas, yeah.
Texas. Yeah, that's in the film. That's in the film. Is it okay to take a man, a boy, 14, 15 years old, abduct him and rape him? Stick a needle this long up his
I know.
throat.
This is where I could be very cavalier and just do a punchline and a joke. But if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
no, it's not okay. It's not.
So if all those things are not okay, let me ask you this, is it okay to lie? Is it okay to lie? Can you lie? Is lying a good thing? Lying isn't a good thing. We all know that.
It depends. If it's the IRS.
Yeah, say where's the Messiah now?
Yeah, if it's the I mean,
But lying is not a good thing. We all agree on that. When you lie,
Yeah.
you are deliberately deceiving someone. You're keeping the truth from them. These entities, Jacques Vallée, J. Allen Hynek, they lie and do so habitually. You start adding this up. Who does that sound like? And then you take the guidebook of a supernatural, all the prophecies that line up. These are fallen angels. And when I say fallen angels, people have all these goofy conceived notions. Folks, you got to take your conceived notions and chuck them. These entities can manipulate space, time, matter, and energy. When a person is abducted, they are levitated. That defies our natural physics as we know it. They're thrown through the window. They go through the window. The window doesn't open. How is that possible? How is it possible to go through the window? Dr. David Jacob, you're looking at a future physics, and you are. They can manipulate space, time, matter, and energy, but they have a nefarious agenda. It's a seed war. They want the sperm, they want the ovum, they're creating hybrids. The cattle mutilations, the bovine blood can be used in human transfusions. The genetic material is taken to create artificial wombs. That's it. I mean, we've uncovered, I call the cattle mutilations, the calling card of darkness, because that's what it is. It's the darkest film I've ever worked on. I can't wait till it's out the door so I don't have to look at it again. And we actually did a buyer beware at the beginning of it, viewer discretion advised. This is a very upsetting film. It's not for the faint of heart. It really isn't. The Roswell film is different because it's not dealing with this whole grisly aspect. But I mean, it's what we've uncovered is the Hell's Kitchen. We've put the abduction phenomena and the cattle mutilations and show how they absolutely connect. And we may be, I'm not saying we are, but we may be one of the few researchers that have actually put that together. The abduction phenomena, the cattle mutilation, they're related, absolutely related, which is why the cattle mutilations goes on and on. The abduction phenomena goes on and on, because that child, when he's re-abducted, that little fetus, when he's only 3 months old, he can't live outside the womb. They create artificial wombs. The blood of the bovine, the blood of the cow can be used in human transfusions.
Is the government aware of this?
The government knows about it. Oh yeah, they know about it.
I would think that they would have to. And did you yell Jordan when you did that?
I did.
You got to yell Jordan.
Yes,
you got to yell Jordan. Because we need to be careful for what we.
No, let me tell you a story.
Is it about Michael Jordan?
No, but 20 years ago, I was giving a lecture at a church, one of the first lectures I'd ever done, years ago, about 20 years ago. There was a guy that came up. Never saw him before, never saw him afterwards. I had a bunch of displays on a table in front. He goes, "Oh, that's Gary Schultz's picture from Area 51." I kind of looked at him sideways. I go, "How do you know that?" Then he started to lecture me about how cattle mutilations really weren't real. And I looked at him and I said, "Here's the deal, pal. You can stay here, but I've got bouncers in the back. You try to disrupt my lecture, you're out of here." And he was outed. I knew who he was. Never saw him before, never saw him again. He was one of those guys that were sent. I had a woman who was sent to us, husband's military. I no longer trust her. I think she was the plant to keep an eye on us, what we were doing. And so this is how they play the game. I'm not a threat. I mean, I'm a little, they can crush me like a worm, but that's not how the game is played anymore. They don't kill you like they used to in the 90s or give you cancer. Like, they don't do that. They don't care anymore because they know it doesn't matter. Who cares? Nobody's listening anyway. Nobody cares.
That was one of the most shocking things about 2017. Actually, I'm going to hold that thought. I will say that, and again, I agree. I'm nobody, especially in the big picture, but I do have a certain amount of influence. Right?
So do I. We both
right. Yeah, exactly. And when I started to see how this game is played, I don't talk about any of it on the air. I don't. But what they have found out is that I'm not stupid and I'm not going to be played. And they have found that out. And what I have done, and I know this is what you do. You're too wise. I listen and I collect the information, and I've got those squinty eyes, and I know who to trust and who not to. It's that simple. And I'm just sitting here playing the game right along with them. It has been a hysterical ride when it comes to that. But they know. I'm not. There are LA. There are people that can get played in this community, leaders in this community, and they take advantage of that. I'm not one of them. I'm not. I just won't go along with the game. I'll listen. Right. And that's the way that I do it. Now, I wanted to ask you this. Is consciousness physical? Is it created through chemistry? Is it part of the atomic matter? Or does it exist outside of the physical? Which way is it?
A human being is comprised of three parts. We're spirit, soul, and body. This is the body. My soul is what I inherited with DNA. So I have, and only God can give you a soul. And that soul has certain attributes in it, from some things that I inherit, other things that are just gifted to me. Okay. And only God can give a soul. The spirit man, spirit woman, is it within us. We are spirit beings. That spirit is completely, we don't know how it interfaces with the body. We don't know where it sits. You just said consciousness. Where are you right now? Where's Jimmy Church? You don't know. You're in this biological shell just like I am. It works. My brain is thinking, but I'm not my brain. I'm not my mind. I'm not. That's a tool. So who am I? I'm a spirit being inside this shell, and no one knows where it really resides. You can cut the brain open. There's not a little guy in there. It's not there. So no one knows where consciousness resides. It's spirit. We know when a person's died, that spirit leaves the body because the body's still here. We're told in Corinthians that, behold, I show you a mystery, because we will not all sleep. We will not all die. We will be changed.
That's strong. Say that again.
Behold, I show you a mystery, for we shall not all sleep. We shall be changed at the last trump. The trumpet will sound, and the dead will rise imperishable, and we all will be changed. For the perishable must put on the imperishable, and the mortal must put on immortality. Is the same scripture type of thing. For For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with the voice of the archangel and the trump of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first and greet the Lord and meet the Lord in the air. And then those of us who are alive and remain will meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be more with him. So the bottom line is the dead in Christ, well, that's the bodies rising up, because those, even if it's just one molecule you can create, we know that from DNA. Just give me one little thing and I can create the whole thing from it. Quantum mechanics. So the dead in Christ rise, and they're reunited with their spirit and their soul. And those of us who are alive and remain, we're translated. This is called the rapture of the church, which is in 2 Thessalonians, which I just quoted to you. So there's a mystery. We shall not all die, but we shall be changed. The trumpet will sound, the dead in Christ will rise first. All that's going to happen at some point. I think we might be soon. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not an escapist. I'm here working my rear end off every day because I got to get films out. I have my marching orders, get all the films out before the end of the year. But we're spirit beings. And the question is, and this is the miracle of Christianity. We've been sort of dancing around it for the last 2 hours. The miracle of Christianity is when a person comes across the line and says, okay, I believe on him who was sent, Jesus. He was sent here. His death on the cross completely cleanses me of all my little nasty things that I've done or will ever do. All of a sudden, our spirit being connects for the first time. Our spirit being connects with the God of the universe. Bam, like that. And he indwells in us. And then things begin to change. And the spirit of the living God comes into a person and on a person, which is incredible. And that's reality. For those of you who are listening, you want that, you just ask. You just say, okay, I believe on him who was sent, Jesus, and forgive me for my sins. Come in, change my life. That's it. There's no robe, there's no signet ring. You don't need a special ceremony. That's it. If it was any more complex, we couldn't do it as human beings. It's that simple. But then he comes in. You invite him, he comes in, and you'll never be the same. I guarantee you will never be. Your life will never be the same. 43 years ago, that happened to me, and here I am at 73. Just my mind's blown every day.
When can we? I'll have you back on the show when the cattle mutilation movie premieres.
Okay.
Do you have a release date in mind?
It's August the 9th, probably by the end of the month.
That's soon.
Yeah,
that's soon.
Yeah, Gil Zimmerman's flying in tomorrow.
Okay.
We're putting the final touches. I'm looking right at it on the monitor. We're putting the final touches on the film. Then it goes to Doug Diamond Audio. He balances and mixes the sound. Then it goes to the duplicators. So, by the end of the month, we should have product in our hand.
Okay. Let's get that arranged and we'll do that. I got to tell you, when I grow up, I want to be L.A. Marzulli. That's just it.
I want to be Jimmy Church. I love that voice. What a radio voice! Wow.
But you're the best, L.A. And just thank you for everything. Okay.
Thank you.
You've been at this for a very long time. I've been following you forever. You are where I get my best material. So thank you. Okay.
Thank you. It's a real honor.
L.A., go play the piano. I'll talk to you later. Give my best.
Long and prosper. Take care.
I'll talk to you, brother. L.A. Marzulli, everybody. Now, his links, I've got a lot of links for L.A. They're all below. We've got them over on the website, and we've got them throughout social media. And so there you go. I want to thank L.A. He is the absolute very best. And as we roll out of here, I'm very excited. Tomorrow I'll get my new console. I don't know if I'll have it installed in time for the show tomorrow night, but I know what I'll be doing this weekend. All right. Tomorrow night, Stephen Halpern is with us. We're going to be talking about music tomorrow night and how it affects us. We're going to be doing all of that tomorrow night with Stephen Halpern. And so there you go. Get your t-shirts. The links are below. All right. Fade Black is produced by Hilton Hall, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Thank you to Dennis and Kevin. Webmasters Through the Geek Music, Doug Aldridge. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and this broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2023 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black. I'm your Jimmy Church. Until tomorrow night with Stephen Halpern, I want you to be safe. Go back, leave tap.